Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a very special Hunt Showdown episode. My name is Ace. I've been playing this game ever since it got released as a beta 1 year prior, and because I know how brutal Hunt can be to new players, I made yet another guide that includes the most essential tips to become an effective hunter and take down your competition. On the surface, Hunt Showdown may look like just another multiplayer FPS. Many people may think this is just a battle royale game with some special fluff, and they will play that way too, and they will feel the consequences. Hunt Showdown has just one rule: adapt quickly or die as many times as it takes for you to learn. Pretty much every weapon, regardless of how weak it seems to be, can be a one-shot. A headshot is almost always deadly if you're standing too close. So to ease your frustration and to help you find into the game, I set up some rules for you to follow. These are of course not absolute, but I achieved very good results with this mindset. Switch out what doesn't work for you and then let me know. I'd be glad to receive some feedback. And now, without further ado, let's begin. Rule number 1. Sound is everything. If you're wondering why enemies always fire at you before you know where they are, here's why. They hear you coming from a mile away. Here's an angry zombie in front of this door and it wants in. Now I will turn my head around for a bit and you will notice that you hear the sound on your left and then on your right ear. Hunt Showdown's sound design is just superb and it can help you survive and get the drop on enemy players. But first you have to learn what actually makes sound in this world, and the answer is simple. Everything. Everything. Even you. Running, for example, is extremely loud and it can tell you where other hunters are at the moment. For practice, I advise you to grab a partner and just try it out for yourself. Walking, on the other hand, isn't noiseless either, but the radius of the sound is at least halved. And crouch walking still generates some amount of noise, but you would have to be really close to another hunter to hear it. And just so you know, vaulting over things using a ladder and jumping, you still make noise. Another thing you should take note of is that every monster makes some distinct sounds, depending on the mood it's currently in. Let's have a look at this armored. Right now, it's calm, but as soon as I throw a decoy, it will enter search mode and the sound pattern will change. And finally, I will throw a decoy in its stupid face, and of course it will scream and get triggered. A triggered monster can be heard compound wide, so if you suddenly hear a hive scream in the distance and you are not responsible for her sudden anger, then it must be another hunter. From here on out, you should realize the tactical advantages you get by just listening out into the world. But now you should also be aware of the dangers every little sound and monster holds. So if you have to take out a monster, do it fast, do it as silent as possible, and then move on. Or deliberately make some noise to lure people to a certain location and then take them out from a whole different angle. Of course. And it doesn't have to be a monster. You can find things that make sound all over the map. Belts, vinyl players, and even pianos can be found and activated. Just be careful when you do this, because every monster is attracted to sound too and it will come to investigate the noise. All the sounds I just mentioned can be heard over a fairly okay amount of distance. Enemies might not even hear you run or kill a monster when they're one compound away, but crows, ducks, dog pounds, and chicken coops are a whole different story. Alarming one of these animals up in the higher elos will spell certain death for you, because that mistake can at least be heard over half the map, and it tells everybody in earshot in which compound or place of the map you currently reside in. Going near one of these animals is a terrible idea. Especially crows and ducks will not just make noise and fly away, they will fly upwards and away from the direction you disturb them from. Which means other hunters will not only hear the sound, they will see the crows in the air and the direction they're flying towards. meaning they now know where you will go next. Either you circumvent these sound traps altogether, or if you really have to, then throw a lantern to neutralize the threat. The dog pounds and chicken coops can easily be taken out by throwing something at the lantern which hangs above their heads. Again, it's not completely silent, but still a lot quieter than having them howl. But that's not even the worst thing you can do. The one thing that makes the loudest sound and can be heard without fail across the whole map is firing your gun. Shooting is the loudest thing you can do. It will be heard over the whole map without fail. And since every single gun has its own sound profile, you just basically told every other player, hey, we're here, I have a shotgun, come take me out from far away so I don't have any chance to fight back. Gunplay should only be used when encountering other players. For everything else, I advise you to use your knife, dusters, and the various tools that just lie around in every compound. Using these things is of course not silent, unless you have a certain trait for it, but it will reduce your chances of getting discovered. And yes, before you ask, the same goes for the boss monster. The butcher, for example, can be killed by a solo player in about 5 minutes if you have an axe ready. Rule number 2. The game is called Hunt, not Fight Showdown. Now we all know that you can play Hunt Showdown solo with a friend or even 2 friends, but no matter how many people you have by your side, one rule applies to everyone.
You are hunting deer, not chasing it.
I've already explained the difference between chasing and hunting in one of my other videos, but this statement is so fundamental that I have to do it again. Chasing means that you open fire on another player as soon as you see him, which might not be the best thing to do, especially when they aren't aware of your presence yet. Most often you will fight against a team of 3. So let's say you shoot at the first guy you see and you don't know about the other 2. Okay, you can do that, but you just made some noise and put yourself in a bad spot. Because those 2 people you didn't see know where you are now, but you still don't know anything about them, and now they're coming to get you. Instead, I ask you to do a thing not many people can do. Observe, be patient, wait for the right opportunity to strike. If you can, watch them for a while, listen to the sound of their weapons when they shoot. Are you up against a shotgun-wielding maniac or rifleman with good aim? Try to identify which one to take out first if possible. For example, right here I only have a silenced Winfield and a silenced pistol. Even if I land a headshot, it won't kill any of those guys from that distance. Shooting now, as a solo player mind you, will kill me in the long run, so I have to let them go. Also, it might be a good idea to follow them for a little while, until you catch them in a, let's call it, not ideal situation. A waist-deep river, for example, is never a good spot to be in since it slows down your movement and there is usually no cover for you to get behind. Which means, stay away from water, but if you catch someone waddling through this liquid death, open fire. Or let's say your enemy is occupied with a monster or is entangled in a gunfight with other players. People tend to focus on whatever is trying to kill them at the moment, and all the better if it isn't you. Yet. You come in as soon as they focus on that something else, whatever it is. That way you will enter the infamous frenemy situation where the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And let's face it, when there's a bounty to get, we are all enemies. Now of course you don't have to go around and avoid making all the noise. Hunt Showdown can be played however the hell you want. You can go all sneaky and pick people off with a sniper, waiting for the perfect shot. But as long as your aim is up for the challenge, you can also go guns blazing and be loud and proud with a shotgun. I am just saying, keep it low-key until it is actually time to strike. You're better off that way. But no matter what you do and what your playstyle is going to be, I want you to know one thing. Rule number 3. Fight dirty. You should be aware of some tricks nobody will tell you until it's too late. For example, your bullet-based weapons can shoot through wood, so just like in real life, there is no point in hiding behind a paper-thin wall. True, the damage gets reduced, but if your enemy has enough ammo, you're still going to fall. Also, there are tiny crevices and peepholes everywhere. You can even peek through doors since nobody in this world knows how to use them. And on the rare occasion they are bolted shut, who cares? Bust them down with an axe or a hammer to permanently destroy that cover. What I am trying to convey here is that the environment in Hunt is your playground and you should treat it as such. Here are just a few examples of the things you can do. You see this red barrel here? It takes one shot to ignite and a bit of waiting to explode. Or you can shoot it a second time to reduce the waiting. But you can cheat a little by placing an alarm trip mine next to the barrel. By itself, the alarm trip mine just fires a rocket in the air and makes some sound to alarm you that somebody's there. But fire and gunpowder, on the other hand, While we're on the subject, you should also take note of any lamps you see hanging around. Shooting these has the same effect as a firebomb and can light up monsters and the occasional hunter that is standing too close. Or you can just nonchalantly wait around the corner and wait for the guy to turn it. There are so many devious tactics you can use, but the bottom line is this: get creative. If you ever find yourself in a fair fight, then your tactics suck. I'm not saying this to insult you, no, by God, no. I am saying this to make it clear that Hunt Showdown doesn't give two hoots about chivalry or fairness and only rewards the ruthless and devious. There are bushes for you to hide in, towers to climb, basements to occupy, and empty houses to plan an effective stakeout. Use that, or I guarantee you it will be used against you. Rule number 4. Learn to read the map. Now, to find the monster on the map, you need to gather 3 clues. Every location in the game has at least one of those, some have 2, and as the tutorial might have already told you, you can see these clues in your dark sight. Every time you pick up a clue, your map will gray out some of the locations, and that means that these clues residing there are inactive now and that the monster isn't there. You need to go on a not grayed out location, and it doesn't have to be the nearest one. You can start at one end of the map, take the clue, notice the first areas are grayed out now, and then go all the way here to get the second one. Some people even forego the first compound altogether and go straight to the middle of the map and take the clue there. How you go on about it is up to you, and it's not even the point I want to make. My point is that you can predict player movement based on the information the clues give you. Remember rule number 1, that sound is important. Let's assume you heard somebody shoot on the other end of the map and you made a mental note about that. Now you take your first clue and realize that the area you heard the shot in is grayed out. Now ask yourself a question: which second clue is the closest one from the team you heard? Because in 80% of the time that team will go there. And that's the whole magic. Now you can predict where the enemy team will go and plan your approach. This works because the information players get from the clues is normed. Everyone will get the same areas grayed out during the match. The clues you take can also give you a lot of information if you know what to look for. For example, if you are the first one to get the clue, then it will be closed off with a white stony substance. Experienced hunters call it sealed, and as soon as you take the clue, the seal will break and you can stare into the deep dark void of another dimension. If that seal isn't there, then somebody was here before you. Also, I mentioned that the clues make sound and glow red when another hunter is nearby, but you can only receive that kind of warning if you have not taken the clue yet. Sealed or unsealed doesn't matter, but as soon as you take the clue, you will not hear it act up anymore. But your enemies will. Also, you would be well off to memorize the supply points and the exits. The positions of those spots change from game to game, and it is a legitimate strategy to wait at these points to ambush you. Especially the exit closest to the boss is often camped by some sneaky players who would like to have the bounty delivered to them. Always expect a player to wait there for you or run to the farthest exit to make a fool out of them. And one last thing I should mention: never assume that you start alone in your area. Some areas are well crowded and there could be even 2 teams right next to you as soon as you start the game. Currently, Hunt Showdown features 2 maps, and you can find a link down in the description that will take you to a Reddit page where you can study the spawn points in peace. Rule number 5. Details, details, details. Hunt is one of those games that is easy to understand but hard to master. Every weapon has its own muzzle velocity, so you have to lead the shot a little bit or not at all, depending on the weapon. Some items are completely situational and strategies may not work as planned. But to become an effective hunter, nay, a master, you need to memorize these details. This is true for the weapon stats, the damage drop-off, and so on and on, but it is also true for the terrain you're moving on. So my last piece of advice is this: do some sightseeing. Maybe play some rounds where you just go around in an area that is grayed out and explore the place. Look for hiding spots and memorize the layout of the different compounds, lest you jump into a corner and right in front of the end of a metal barrel. Take your time and get familiar with the place so you can maneuver around there like it's your home. Hunt Showdown is an unforgiving experience and your initiation will be brutal, unfair, and sometimes extremely frustrating. But I can promise you, once you got your hands on a bounty and successfully extract it while another team tries to rush you down, you will say, yes, it was worth it. Sure, a powerful weapon helps, but with the right strategy, you can take down pretty much everybody with just an axe and nothing else. If you want proof, then check out my videos, because I've already done that and some other stupid challenges like using no weapons at all. And I got away with it. And if you want to see me play live, then check out my Twitch account. The link is in the description down below, and if you want to see something other than hunt, then check out my reviews about pretty much all kinds of video games. With that said, initiate, happy hunting, and I hope to see you in the bayou.